Griddlecakes, hotcakes, flapjacks, slapjacks, crepes, whatever you call them, people love pancakes drenched in butter and syrup. In today's episode, I'm going to create a recipe to make these fluffy delights in my mess kit on Making a Mess with the Yankee Camper. Pancakes.
A real camping meal is pancakes, but pancakes are tough to make in a mess kit. Or are they? Well, I put together a recipe using basic ingredients as opposed to store-bought pancake mix. This way I know what's in the mix. There's no monosodium phosphate, glutamate, whatever that may be. It's just the ingredients that I include. So let me walk you through what goes into my pancake mix. First of all, into a locked tight plastic bag, which I've marked pancake mix, I put in 1/4 cup of flour and 1 teaspoon of sugar. I also add a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, 1.5 teaspoons of egg crystals, 4 teaspoons of dried milk, 3 teaspoons of butter flakes, and a dash of salt. I'll also need, in a separate container, between 1 and 1.5 tablespoons of vegetable shortening, and, of course, maple syrup, which I've also put into a separate container. And I'll place this in a small plastic bag just in case it leaks. The other thing that I'll want is I prefer to have protein with my breakfast. And so I've got some pre-cooked bacon that I'll include. Finally, because you can only cook them one at a time, you'll want some aluminum foil so that you can make a pouch, which I'll show you how to do out in the field. Combine all of those ingredients in a paper bag, which I've marked pancakes. I'll put in my vegetable shortening, and finally, I'll put the maple syrup into a small Loctite bag, seal that up tight to prevent it from leaking. Close my paper bag, and I'm all set to make breakfast out at my campsite. I don't have any endorsements for making these videos, but there is a cost associated with things like campsite fees and supplies. This channel runs on coffee. If you enjoy the work that I do in creating these videos and would like to help out with expenses, please consider buying me a cup of coffee. It doesn't need to be much, just a couple of dollars. I'll put a link in the description. Now, let's get back to the video.
An old gear jammer settles himself at the counter in a truck stop along Route 95 in Maine. I'll have a pair of headlights, pair of running boards, and 3 flat tires. Afraid to question the grizzled trucker, the new waitress writes down the order and sends it to the cook. The hash slinger simply nods and sets to work. Confused, the young girl asks another waitress with years of experience about the unusual request. I just put in the strangest order. 2 headlights, running boards, and 3 flat tires. This isn't an auto parts store. Oh, honey, the wiser woman replies, he wants 2 eggs sunny side up, 2 slices of bacon, and flat tires of pancakes. When the food's ready, the new girl slides a side of Boston baked beans onto the tray with the order. After placing the plate in front of the old trucker, She sets the bowl of beans down beside the breakfast, smiles, and says, "Might as well gas up while you're here." That's an old joke, but hey, I'm an old guy. The obvious tie in here is the three flat tires. Nobody likes getting a flat, but did you know that without Charles Goodyear, we may not have tires at all? Before 1836, rubber was nothing like we now know it. It's a sap or latex from trees in South America. The gum was used by the Mayans and Aztecs to create balls for sports and other rituals. In 1770, Joseph Priestley discovered that by rubbing a small bit on paper, it could erase pencils, and he dubbed it rubber. Although the raw latex worked for waterproofing, its uses were limited to items such as life preservers or on clothing and footwear to repel water. That is, until an accident occurred with a stove in Woburn, Massachusetts. Charles Goodyear was born at the turn of the 19th century in New Haven, Connecticut, to a hardware store merchant. Eventually, Charles joined his father in the business and moved to Philadelphia. But extended unpaid credit to customers, along with an economic depression, forced the business to close in 1830. A short time later, Goodyear turned to inventions and had heard of the gum elastic that was all the rave. Around that time, the town of Woburn was expanding from leather tanneries to rubber production for its use in the shoe and clothing industries. However, the product was not well regarded. In the winter, it would become brittle and crack. In the summer heat, it would turn to goo. With limited prospects, Charles moved his family to the booming industrial town in the late 1830s with the idea of trying to solve the problems with rubber. Try as he might, progress was slow, and he even served a bit of time in debtor's prison while his family went hungry. Goodyear had made some improvements by adding sulfur, but the process was slow until, after a bit of ridicule from customers about the uses of rubber, he was being animated while holding a lump of the pliable gum which flew from his hand and landed on the hot stove. In attempting to clean up the embarrassing faux pas, Goodyear discovered that the lump had turned hard. With more experimentation, he was able to control the structure with the use of sulfur and heating, a process he titled vulcanization due to the heat. After several more years of perfecting and making connections with the rubber industry, Charles Goodyear applied for a patent to his process in 1844, which gained him international prominence. Unfortunately, his life following the invention was one of lawsuits and money problems. His health, not very good to begin with, had suffered with the use of caustic chemicals during his experimentation. After learning that his daughter was dying, Goodyear traveled from Europe to New York in July of 1860. Discovering that he was too late, he collapsed and was taken to a hotel in the city, where he succumbed to years of stress and toxic fumes at the age of 59. Charles Goodyear is buried in the town where he was born. After his death, his widow Fanny Wardell Goodyear and his children were able to live comfortably on the royalties from the invention of the vulcanization process. And the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company? It was founded in Akron, Ohio, 38 years after Charles's death. The company was named to honor the famous inventor, but the Goodyear family, including some of his children still living in the 1930s, never received any compensation. After Charles Goodyear figured out how to make rubber useful through vulcanization, industrialists created many useful items out of the natural gum, and, you might say, it started selling like hotcakes. Now, you know. Speaking of hotcakes, let's get the batter mixed.
Well, good morning. The first step we need to do in making this recipe is get out our ingredients. So we'll take out our pancake mix. our maple syrup, we'll set that aside for a moment, and our vegetable shortening. Using a small bowl, just put the pancake mix right into the small bowl. And into that pancake mix, you're going to want to add 1/4 cup of water. Just mix that in. Pour it in a little bit at a time. You'll want that mixture to be a little bit lumpy and not too soupy. Make sure you've got all the dry ingredients covered. It shouldn't be too thin, but not too thick. And for the moment, just set that aside. The next step is to create an aluminum foil pocket. Taking a small piece of aluminum foil, fold it over like so. This will allow the pancakes to remain warm because your pan is not big enough to make 3 pancakes all at one time.
Did you know that 93% of Americans either love or like pancakes, and 12% eat them more than once a week? That's a whole lot of flapjacks. Not as many as were served at the Santa Monica Pier last March by IHOP, though. They served more than 25,000 hotcakes in an 8-hour period, and they currently hold the world's record. But every year, a Massachusetts city serves more than 12,000 people a breakfast of pancakes, bacon, and a beverage in less than half that time. Come May, the city of Springfield closes Main Street and sets up a table over 2,500 feet long to dish out the fluffy discs in syrup. While they haven't set a record in recent years, the event is remarkable nonetheless. Around 300 volunteers mix about 500 gallons of batter and cook 1,000 pounds of bacon to serve hungry participants who've paid just $3 for a plate of Griddlecakes and sow belly to be washed down with coffee, juice, milk, or water. Kids' meals are only $1. Admission is free, although there's a $10 charge for parking. Titled "The World's Largest Pancake Breakfast," it's held by the Spirit of Springfield, an organization whose mission is to promote community events and civic pride. The whole affair started in celebration of the country's 200th birthday in 1976. 10 years later, the event was repeated to recognize the city's 350th birthday and has been held annually ever since. Just to keep things interesting, in the past, a friendly competition took place with the cereal city, Battle Creek, Michigan, where they'd tried to outdo each other for the biggest breakfast event. But the focus in Springfield has returned to the community. If you're in the area next May 16th, maybe you should mark your calendar to share breakfast with around 13,000 friends at the world's largest pancake breakfast in the city that gave us the Indian motorcycle and Dr. Seuss. Now, you know. Let's finish making our breakfast out at the campsite.
Letting that pancake mixture set for a few minutes before starting to cook it will allow it to sort of emulsify. In the meantime, open your shortening. Place some of that into the pan. It doesn't take very much. The key to making decent pancakes is low heat. Let's light the stove. Melt that shortening right into the pan, being sure to cover the entire bottom of the pan. Placing the pan on your pot holder, I'm just going to use a coffee scoop, and I'm going to scoop some of that mixture right into the pan. And then just return that to the heat. The pancakes will start to bubble a little bit on the top. You may have to move the pan around a little bit to get that to go, and then using your spatula, just continue to work that pancake around.
When cooked, place the pancake in the foil pouch.
Repeat the process for each subsequent pancake. Remember, it's important to use low heat when heating the pancakes through. The pocket rocket's a little tricky. I'm going to stand up and address the oil on this pancake. Make sure the shortening covers the entire bottom of the pan, or your pancakes will stick, which is what happened with my last one. Return the pan to the heat, and be sure to tilt it around to not scorch the pancakes. Patience is required. You can see that pancake is fairly dry in the middle. Give it a flip. Let that cook through the other side. As that finishes up, take your plate, add your first pancake. Let's check this one. Just needs a minute more. It doesn't take long for that second side of the pancake to cook through. Let's check it again. Another moment. Watch the underside of the pancake. Make sure that it doesn't scorch. I think that looks pretty done to me. Place the pan on the pot holder. Turn off your heat. Add some maple syrup. Camp style pancakes. I'm going to eat my breakfast, and then I'm going to clean up my mess. That's pretty good. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also subscribe to my channel so you can be alerted to new videos I put out each week. Maybe you'll consider sharing it with your friends on social media. I'd really appreciate that. I'm going to finish my pancakes for breakfast. Thank you for watching.